So I'm going to compare Vivek Ramaswamy to a very in particular basketball player. Are you ready for the big reveal? Hello, good people. It's Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of buckets. And today we're talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. Yes, that's how you say his name. I got you. Vivek Ramaswamy is putting up buckets. If you've been watching this guy the last couple of weeks, he should be on your radar. And if he's not on your radar, he should be. Because right now, this dude's making some noise. He's already passed up all the old guard Republicans, these people that are basically fossilized, kind of fodder for for the wood chipper. You know, your Tim Scotts, your Kristi Noems, your Mike Pences. These people have no chance of winning. They're kind of just in the game just to be in the game for whatever reason. But Vivek Ramaswamy is, as we say in the hood, creeping on the come up. But we're going to talk about why. What is it about Vivek Ramaswamy that's making him appealing? And I got to tell you, every time I watch Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm just like, this dude's pretty good at this. This dude's pretty good at this. I don't know if he's going to be the president. I don't even know if I want him to be the president. But I tell you what, every time he's on my television screen, he's making a compelling case. So today, I'm going to compare Vivek Ramaswamy to a very interesting basketball player and explain to you why I think he's doing so well and what other candidates maybe can learn from it. I'm also going to talk about Donald Trump, which is obviously his chief hurdle, and I'm going to compare him to a basketball player as well, and something that you may have never thought of. But first, let's talk about Vivek. Vivek is getting buckets, right? That's the analogy I've chosen to use today. So we're going to talk basketball. I tell you, I'm a getter of buckets. So every once in a while, we're going to have some hoops talk. There's a very important concept in basketball, which we call being able to score at all three levels. Being able to score at all three levels is something that most players can't do. It's actually quite a rare ability. Only the best of the best offensive players can do this. People like Kevin Durant, the late, great Kobe Bryant was one of those people. Really, when you start to think about it, though, there's only a handful of people that really you can really say that about. Steph Curry comes to mind. Outside of that, even your great, great players didn't have that ability. So being able to score at all three levels is important. What are all three levels? From the three-point line, that's obvious. From the mid-range, which is, 12 to 15 feet, somewhere around the free throw line, ish area, but outside of the paint, and then at the basket, being able to score at the rim. Now, being able to score at the rim, particularly generally the domain of really big, powerful men, and being able to score from three-point range is generally the domain of people who are not as athletic and not as physically dominant, and so have to rely on shooting in order to score the basketball. And then playing in between is kind of a combination of both. You got a guy that's supremely skilled, but also pretty athletic. And so your Kawhi Leonards, for example, come to mind. But very rarely, because of that dichotomy, because of the body types, very rarely do you have all three in the same player. Fortunately, we do have some examples of guys who can do this, and it's actually quite an advantage. But this is what I think Vivek Ramaswamy's secret sauce is, because he's got three aspects of his presidential campaign that I think has been appealing to many people. And we're going to talk about that right here. Why is Vivek Ramaswamy putting up buckets? Why is he putting points on the board? There are three specific political categories, I think, that are necessary in order for someone to be well-rounded as far as their campaign is concerned. And that is having a vision for the family, a message for the family, having a worldview that resonates with the majority of the people, and also their national identity or their national policy, giving our national identity some shape. And Vivek Ramaswamy has been excellent at communicating those three things. First of all, he's a supremely skilled communicator. Very smooth, very fluent, very, very concise. He doesn't waste words. He doesn't ramble. And his messaging to me it just resonates. Every time I hear him talk, I go, wow, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Even if I'm not even sure what he said was right. It just feels like it's right, all right, which is kind of a big deal. So Vivek Ramaswamy has done these three things, which is my political version of being able to score at all three levels. So I'm going to compare Vivek Ramaswamy to a very in particular basketball player. Are you ready for the big reveal? None other than Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving might quite possibly be the most skilled basketball player to ever live. That's not an exaggeration. He's certainly one of the most skilled players in today's game for sure. And this guy 100% can score at all three levels. There's never been a guy that size who can score at the basket. Once again, scoring at the basket is particularly the domain of big, powerful men like Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jokic. Take your pick of big men. Joel Embiid. This guy's like 6'2", not even 200 pounds, and all he does is get buckets at the rim. He can stop and pop from anywhere in between. He can shoot from deep. He's a what you call a 50-40-90 guy. 50% from the field, 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line. This guy's got it. He's got the bag, 100%. And this is why he reminds me of Vivek Ramaswamy, because Vivek Ramaswamy is skilled. Think about what he's done. He is in the conversation with Ron DeSantis, who has a stellar national platform where he took the state of Florida and basically turned it from a marginal kind of purple swing state to a deep, deep red state. He's got stellar reviews for people who live there. He knocked it out of the park with COVID. He went against the grain a little bit, and where everyone was saying he should have did the other thing, everyone said he should have zigged, but he zagged, and he turned out to be right. How in the world is Vivek Ramaswamy on this guy's heels? I'll tell you why. Because this guy is a fantastic communicator. And he's communicated his philosophy on all three levels of political campaigning. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to listen to some of the interviews that Vivek Ramaswamy has done. And this one he did with Chuck Todd, I thought was particularly informative and demonstrates the sort of oratory skill and rhetoric that he has in even dealing with difficult questions. So let's get right into it.
Why are you convinced this message could actually work if you got the nomination in a general election?
I think I'm speaking as a member of my generation here, Chuck, but I think it's true of all Americans. We're all hungry for a cause right now in America. We're hungry for purpose and meaning at a point when the things that used to fill our hunger for purpose, faith, patriotism, family, hard work, these things have disappeared. So I see an opportunity to revive our missing national identity. I think that's something that Americans hunger for across the political spectrum, answering what it means to be an American today. You ask people my age that question, you get a blank stare in response. I think that is the vacuum at the heart of our national soul. I'm running for president to revive the ideals that actually set the nation into motion. I think that's going to unite the country.
So here you see, he's talking about things like identity, purpose, things of those natures. And it's different, right? You don't generally hear presidential candidates talking like that. Well, they talk, oh, we gotta the border, foreign policy, taxes. No, you gotta talk to people's humanity. That's what he's doing. He's talking about a message that is universal. Good on him.
It's interesting. Your rhetoric can sound uniting in your answer just now, but then you say the following things. The trans movement has become a cult. We need to abandon climate religion in America. I definitely find the idea of systemic racism revolting. I say this, how do you square those statements with unification? These are divisive times. This is a polarizing time. We're pretty evenly divided on these cultural issues. How do you unite the country when you're essentially denigrating the views of half of the country?
Now, I got to interject here because Chuck Todd, being the leftist that he is, that was kind of a slimy way to put it. And I don't even know that he did it on purpose because they're so used to doing this sort of thing. It's just kind of like breathing to them. But there's a very important distinction between denigrating a person and disagreeing with their views. Now, apparently, in the era of Trump derangement syndrome and extreme leftism, they cannot tell the difference, but I just thought it was necessary to point that out. His whole presumption is incorrect. But Vivek does a good job answering. Let's listen.
I don't think I'm denigrating the views of half the country. I mean, let's take the touchiest of those subjects right now on the trans issue. I think that when a kid says that I'm born into the wrong body, that my gender doesn't match my biological sex, more often than not, that is a case of a mental health disorder. That doesn't mean you disrespect that person. It means they're crying out for help. I met with 2 young women who regret the decisions they made, going through double mastectomies, one a hysterectomy, chemical intervention, now trying to teach kids across the country that when you're struggling inside, going through adolescence, yes, that involves some struggle. We live in a cultural moment today where adults are affirming that confusion rather than actually treating them compassionately. That's cruelty.
I love the way he answered that. First of all, he didn't back down. He didn't couch his comments. He didn't say, well, I didn't really mean it that way. He said, I said what I said, and here's why. People could you can say what you want to say, but that's what people want to see. Vivek Ramaswamy is saying, this is who I am, take it or leave it. I'm not going to apologize. I think my view is right. I'm going to explain it to you. I believe my view is compassionate, and I'm not denigrating people. I want to help these people, and I like the way he answered that question. Let's hear Chuck Todd, though, because, he's Chuck Todd.
Talk to parents that have a kid who's going through this?
I have, actually. Yeah, and I think
my point
it's a difficult place to be. I acknowledge that. But
Yeah.
what we need to do on both sides here is act with compassion, not really what makes us feel good about ourselves. Yeah. And I think that's my main issue across our response to transgenderism and to climate. It's solving the actual underlying issues rather than what allows you to signal your virtue.
What makes it compassionate, though, to pass a law that denies a parent making their own healthcare decision for their kid? That's the part of this. That doesn't sound very conservative and small government to me.
Well, look, there isn't a...
I know you tuned in to hear Vivek, give this guy the business, but I got to interject here because this is something that's kind of sneaky. I want you guys to be smart and notice when people on the left sneak little things in there that are not really correct. He talks about small government. Well, sophisticated conservatives, at least, don't talk about small government. We talk about limited government. And the difference is that small government is arbitrarily small, right? You say, well, why can't you go deal with those big tech censorship? Oh, we can't do that because, we got to have small government. I don't know what that means. Limited government is where we have well-defined parameters for the government. We define what the government should and should not be doing, what is their job, and then the government needs to be whatever size is necessary to facilitate that role. Just like the military, for example. It is the government's job to provide for the common defense. Now, no one says that we should have a small military because we want to have a small government. We want a big, powerful military because to provide for the common defense, we need a robust and beefy and very, very kick-you-know-what military force, right? So we expand that because it's necessary. Okay, I digress. Let's listen to Vivek's answer.
State in this union that allows you to smoke an addictive cigarette before the age of 18, that allows you to get a tattoo before the age of 18. That's a body-altering change that a kid may later regret in life. So I think it is perfectly reasonable to say that if you're after 18 years old, you're free to decide whatever you want to do. That's what it means to live in a free country. But below the age of 18, I think it's perfectly legitimate to say that we won't allow genital mutilation or chemical castration.
Genital mutilation and chemical castration. Listen to the words he's using. It's amazing. He's using those words, but he doesn't come off as abrasive. It's to me, he doesn't, at least. He seems quite, if that was Donald Trump saying that, people would be throwing something at the television screen. But anyway, let's listen to it.
And through puberty blockers
for
the purpose of gender transition.
But how do you know it's that? Again, how do you know, are you confident that you know that gender is as binary as you're describing it? Are you confident that it isn't a spectrum?
I am.
You know this as a scientist?
Well, there's 2 X chromosomes if you're a woman, an X and a Y. That means you're a man.
There's a lot of scientific research out there. There's a lot of scientific research out there that says gender is a spectrum.
Chuck, I respectfully disagree. Gender dysphoria for most of our history, all the way through the DSM-5, has been characterized as a mental health disorder. And I don't think it's compassionate to affirm that. I think that's cruelty. When a kid is crying out for help, what they're asking for is, you got to ask the question of what else is going wrong at home? What else is going wrong at school? Let's be compassionate and get to the heart of that, rather than playing this game as though we're actually changing our medical understanding for the last 100 years. I go back to this.
I just have to say this. I know this is turning into a debate between me and Chuck Todd, but just think about what he just implied. Okay. First of all, this is called the fallacy of appealing to authority. And people on the left do this all the time. Well, the scientists say, the scientists say a lot of things. The scientists say a lot of things. It is a logical fallacy. We've known this for at least several millennia, that to just say, well, the person in charge said so, that's why you ought to do it, is complete idiocy and should not be tolerated. Okay. Secondly, though, he makes this claim. How do you know? How do you know that it's genital mutilation? Well, the question that I would ask him, if there's any question at all about whether or not it is gender mutilation or not, we shouldn't be gambling with the lives of children. If I put a box in front of you and I say, hey, there might be a kitten in that box. If you smash it and there's no kitten in the box, I'll give $10,000 to your favorite charity. But if there is, you just killed the kitten. If you don't know if there's a kitten in that box, you should not be swinging and smashing and destroying a little kitten. How much more then should we do that for our children? Let's listen to Vivek's or Chuck Todd's, whatever, his rebuttal.
If a parent is dealing with a child that has these, that may have these issues, trust me, the parent, the last thing they want to do is consider something like this. But if that is what they think could help their child pursue happiness, or they're not to kill themselves, why take away that option? Again, why shouldn't it be up to the parent?
So part of why parents now suddenly feel that way, let's ask ourselves that, Chuck, is we've created a culture that teaches parents that they're being bigoted or that they're bad people if they don't actually take those steps. So part of what I think is, listen, gender dysphoria, for the rare few people who have suffered it, is a condition of suffering. My question is, why on earth are we going out of our way to create even more of it? And there's no doubt that the cultural movement in this country, even education, is creating more gender dysphoria. If it's a condition of suffering, let's not create more of it. That's what we're doing.
Okay, what he just said is an absolute fact. Gender dysphoria is up something like 20-fold in this generation with Gen Zers. So we are either, like Bill Maher said, either we're creating them or something weird's going on. Anyway, so I like this interview and this issue, and I wanted to show you there's more to it, and you can watch it, the full interview if you like. But what he's talking about here with this transgender issue actually is quite interesting, and I think this issue separates the men from the boys, because in it you have all three of the main issues. You have policy, right? How are we going to deal with this? You have issues of family, human dignity. It speaks to the worldview, the philosophical worldview that you espouse, and you're saying, hey, something is just doesn't seem correct about this. And so here Vivek is just espousing his worldview and doing a fine job making his case, saying that his position is one of compassion, right? So the faith, the worldview, and the policy, or the family, the worldview, and the policy, all converging in this one issue. And I thought he did well dealing with it. Now, I want to show you one more clip of him talking with Tucker Carlson, and you'll see more of the same. Once again, this is Vivek being Vivek and doing what he does best.
These are symptoms: drug addiction, depression, suicide, you name it. These are symptoms of a deeper void of purpose and meaning in our country. But Tucker, I think the good news in that is I think our country's not doing well, but I think that this is also our opportunity as a movement to level up and fill that void, that vacuum, with our own vision. Individual, family, nation, God. When I talk to young people about this, they're more interested in that than they are in race, gender, sexuality, and climate. And so now we got to start running to something as Americans, and if we do, I'm confident that our country will be doing well again. That's what.
So well put. He is not running against certain things. He's running to establish a national identity. He is filling the void of the futile ideologies that the left has given to people, but have left them empty, have left them unfulfilled. And he's saying, here's an alternative view of the world. You can embrace this. We're giving you something at a metaphysical level that you can be a part of. You can be this. You can go to faith in God, and we'll talk about his faith in God in a bit. But once again, well said.
That's where I'm at.
Is it my imagination, or are people who weren't raised in traditional religious households, who haven't spent a lot of time thinking about theology, all of a sudden talking about God a lot? Do you notice that?
I do notice that, actually. And I think this is a good sign because there's an old expression, right? If there's a hole the size of God in your heart and God does not fill it, something else will instead. That's what's happened in the last decade in our country. Something else, some secular religion has filled that void. But it hasn't really satisfied our moral hunger, right? And so that's kind of, that effect is fading, and I think people are hungry to turn back to the real thing. The conversation's coming up, but they say it with a kind of prudishness.
Yes.
Right? God is a four-letter word. It's sort of a thing you have to tiptoe around. And I think that right now, family's the same way. The nuclear family makes some people uncomfortable when I say it, but actually this is the best known form of governance to mankind. And so if we start talking more about, hey, that's what we're running to. That's actually what we stand for. Yes, we are one nation. I'm a citizen of this nation, not some nebulous global citizen somewhere else. That it is one nation under God. Yes, it is a nation that is stronger when we ground ourselves in the unit of the family. Then I notice something happens, especially for younger people across the country, Tucker, is they're more open to that message than they thought, but they need someone to serve it up to them.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? That was so well put. So well put. He's not talking about, listen, the border is important. Inflation is important. The tax rates are important. But this stuff means something to everyone. And to most people would agree, hey, doesn't matter what else is going on. If our family is in shambles, we're not winning. So Vivek Ramaswamy, putting up buckets. Now I want to circle back. I want to circle back to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's really the guy, right? He's the 800-pound gorilla. There's one thing that describes Donald Trump, and I'm going to compare him to another basketball player that maybe you haven't thought of. There's one thing that describes Donald Trump, and that is dominance. Donald Trump is dominant. Donald Trump is an 800-pound gorilla. Donald Trump is a wrecking ball in a china shop. Not a bull in a china shop, a wrecking ball. Whenever he comes in, he's just like, I'm kicking, you know what? I'm taking names. We're going to win, 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 win. Drill, baby, drill. You're going to be tired of winning. You're going to win so much. And he's America first guy through and through. But here's the thing. You know, we talk about scoring on all three levels. Donald Trump's not really that guy. He's not really that guy. You know who Donald Trump is more like? He's more like this guy. The big Aristotle, the Diesel. Shaq Diesel himself. Shaq was just a force of nature. There was nothing anybody could do to stop him. But he wasn't a scorer at all three levels guy. He was a scorer in the paint guy. He was a give me the ball on the block. I'm going to turn down. I'm going to dunk on 5 people at the same time guy. Sometimes that worked. Sometimes it didn't. Good thing he was paired with Kobe Bryant, because Kobe Bryant was a scorer at all three levels guy. Kobe Bryant was their closer. The reason why Shaq won so much is because he was paired with someone like Kobe. Donald Trump's not a family guy. Let's just be honest. Donald Trump can't articulate those things like Vivek Ramaswamy has to articulate it, and if he tried, it would not resonate. So these are the two things. But here's the thing, though. Let me go back to Vivek here for a moment, because Vivek, he's got his challenges as well. See, here's the thing about Kyrie Irving that most people don't realize here. Kyrie Irving hasn't really won a whole lot in his life. Kyrie Irving is supremely skilled. He's the guy with the bag. He's the guy everyone wants to be. All the kids want to be on the blacktop, on the street ball court. But you know what? He's kind of a quirky guy. Doesn't work well with others. He played with LeBron, and LeBron covered a lot of his warts. He wasn't a good defender. Kind of a me guy, kind of a selfish guy. He thought it could be Batman. Found out he was really Robin when he left LeBron, and he hasn't. I don't think he's won a single playoff series since he left playing with LeBron. So he's basically done nothing. Once he left LeBron, he thought he was Batman. Finds out that he was Robin. Now, what about Vivek? Is he Robin? Or is he Batman? I don't know. I don't know if he's Robin. I don't know if he's Batman. We will find out. We do know that Donald Trump's Batman. But here's the interesting thing. Could we see Vivek as Robin and Trump as Batman? Is that the ticket? Is that your 2024 ticket? I think it might be. So, in conclusion, what are we going to get in this 2024 election? I don't know. I know Vivek Ramaswamy is a compelling person, and I think he might even end up beating Ron DeSantis. I had talked a lot about Ron DeSantis because really it's Trump and somebody else, right? So it's just going to be about who's that second guy that's going to push Donald Trump in the primary. Now, if it ends up being Ron DeSantis, I think that Vivek Ramaswamy could be his running mate. I think that's very possible. Vivek Ramaswamy, such a smooth orator, such a great communicator, I think Donald Trump would do well. Vivek Ramaswamy could be Kyrie to Donald Trump's LeBron. He could be Kobe to Donald Trump's Shaq. But that remains to be seen. Anyway, friends, tell me what you think. You think Vivek is that guy? You think he's putting up buckets? You think he's a scam? Or is there something else? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Till next time, friends. God bless you.